we will have a brief presentation by BeyondTrust on the topic of the path to zero trust. Hope you will tune in for the next 30 minutes to join us. And you can leave your comments in the chat box on the right side.
Management helps you on your journey. Hello, today we are going to talk about how Beyond Trust Universal Privilege Management helps you on your journey to zero trust. Our talk, The Path to Zero Trust, will focus on how principles of least privilege, endpoint privilege management, and secure remote access help ensure that you can apply the principles of zero trust model onto your enterprise security. First, let's have a chat on what is zero trust. The basic fundamental of zero trust is a paradigm: always verify, never trust. What it means is that verify every user, validate every access, enforce the principle of least privilege to the workload or application that is being accessed, and have a complete monitoring of all the activities that is being carried out for the period or duration of access. Now, this takes away the principle of focusing on your perimeter or perimeter-based devices to being able to granularly able to focus your security on the workload and the user that is carrying out that access. Now, this is a paradigm shift. Enterprises have traditionally been focusing on flat networks where once a user gains access to that network, he then has a complete run of all the resources that are available within that network. We are moving this to a model where each workload is segmented, is protected individually. We continuously authenticate and verify every access request to that workload with continuous monitoring of all that access that is being carried out. Now, why do you need zero trust? In the last decade, you've seen that technologies such as cloud, DevOps, virtualization and containerization, work from home or remote working, and the OT/IT convergence, to name a few, has led to a complete dissolving of the traditional perimeter. Defenses such as perimeter defenses or air gap networks are no longer feasible in this new model or with these new technologies. What is essential is that you now need to have an ability to monitor on a per workload on per user basis. Now, with zero trust framework being around for some time, there has been consistent challenge in its adoption. And the reason for it is there is no one single product that you can buy and say that I have deployed zero trust. Instead, zero trust is a framework. It requires you to apply these principles across the various systems, devices, and networks that you have in your environment. And you need to be able to adapt your existing security technologies and architectures to evolve to meet this new zero trust paradigm. And the big challenge that you have is within any enterprise, you would have what we call as this privilege continuum, where users' access can evolve from right the highly privileged, where a user has complete run into the system or the application in ask, to where an application would support a principle of zero trust, where you can granularly define users' access as well as be able to granularly able to control and monitor his access. Of course, in between, you would have things such as least privilege, where you can granularly define what user can do, define what a user's accesses based on his requirement, and a just-in-time policy where a user is granted access just at the time of request or when the time of necessity. Now, as we move on, you to understand that Beyond Trust Universal Privilege Management, which focuses on not just the traditional privilege password management for the administrators, but being able to secure your endpoints across your Unix, Linux, Windows, and Mac environments by applying the principles of granular least privilege as well as application control and the secure remote access are absolutely fulfilled to meet your requirement of in your zero trust journey. Now, what we do as a UPM is being able to secure or manage your privileges across every user, every session, and across all assets. Now, looking at that in view, if you look at this quick image, I would say, starting right from your right side, let's talk about remote access. And this is something that a lot of organizations are today struggling with. The main reason is The traditional VPN do not offer the granularity or the monitoring capability that are required for remote access for a lot of sensitive workloads. In our case, when a user is accessing remotely, you now have a bastion host that allows a level of security or a level of separation between a user's endpoint or a BYOD device and your enterprise network. Second, you can granularly define the resource or an asset that the user is trying to access right down to a PC that is trying to access or a server that is trying to access or even a specific application within these endpoint that he's trying to access. All the while, you have granular recording, including session, maybe video capture of all the activities that is being captured with an ability to do keyword-based blocking where certain keywords can be blocked or commands can be blocked from a user's perspective. Moving on, the other quick challenge that you typically have is being able to secure your administrative access. Now, what you need to do is be able to ensure that all your administrators now access through the privileged password management system with all of their sessions being monitored and being subject to review and even sometimes real-time controls. A privileged password and session management allows you to ensure that all the passwords are managed centrally. You have a user who now has seamless access based on policy to the resources or end devices that he wants to control. And then you have a complete, from a security perspective, ability to monitor his activities. The other big challenge that you have in a heterogeneous environment is how to have a centralized monitoring. In a heterogeneous environment, it is very common for you to have an AD ID or a Windows AD domain ID to log on to your Windows servers and uh, endpoints. And then you would have on per system, a separate ID for your Mac. You would have an ID for your, Unix and Linux system, which is on a per server basis. This creates a lot of challenges, especially want to reconcile a user's access across all of these systems. AD Bridge allows you to have extend the same AD authentication and policy environment to your Unix, Linux, and Mac environment, which means that you now have the same domain ID that a user can log on across these environments, which allows for ease of traceability of a user's access. And second, now allows you to apply policy on a single ID. So rather than having to try to figure out and map a user's ID to his IDs in these systems and then apply policies on a per server basis, you now can apply all these policies on a central basis by using simple AD groups to define policy and controls in terms of which servers a user can now access. The other big challenge that you have in an enterprise is how to enable or streamline the activities of your power users, your developers, and some of the key mobile users, where they would require to install software, make changes to your systems, and configure. The traditional way of doing it things would be to remove all admin access from your users, and for each one of these changes, they would have to call a help desk, which is a very tedious, painful, and creates a lot of load on your help desk personnel. With just-in-time privilege, endpoint privilege management for Windows and Mac enables you to have seamless access to these resources or controls that you need, at the same time providing the level of security without where you would are not giving the user any admin rights. In this case, a user who needs to install software would have just a policy check, and in case the policy or he's granted that access, the end utility would be elevated and he would have the access to carry out the task in hand. Think about making a network change, installing certain software. At the same time, the principles of having application control allows you to granularly define what he cannot do. For example, if you do not want him to be able to install, let's say, a file sharing application or a blacklisted application, you can prevent him from doing that. Moving on, the Unix environment is typically a complex environment and where some of the most critical workloads are defined. The traditional tools such as sudo are on a per server basis and are very complex and very complicated to manage, especially when you have a fleet of servers and many users who need to access these servers for various configuration tasks. In this case, being able to centrally manage the policy across your entire Unix and Linux environment and be able to define policies in terms of what a user can carry out on a per server basis is very useful. What this allows you to do is ensure that a user who needs to maybe update a file is granted access exactly to the folder and to that file that needs update and nothing else. It also allows you to have constant monitoring, including video recording of key activities carried out, be able to carry out file and integrity monitoring through so your critical files are protected from any change and notified in case any change or tampering is carried out. And last but not the least, with secrets management being a key element of almost all key DevOps operations, every CI/CD tool needs to have a whole set of secrets stored and managed for their access. And now this is causing a huge challenge. When you have tens of these CI/CD tools and cloud environments, being able to manage the secrets across all of these tools is a big challenge. BeyondTrust Secret Safe allows you to have a centralized repository that provides these secrets at scale to all of your CI/CD tools and cloud environments, as well as the users who need access on a time-to-time basis. This ensures that your secret management from being a series of set of islands across all of these tools are consolidated into one single environment, and it allows you to constantly define policy centrally and be able to give access on a per tool or a per resource basis. Across these tools, it ensures that you have a complete visibility and environment into your privilege and secrets management. And with integration with your SIM, your multi-factor authentication and ITSM and IAM allows you to environment or set up a zero trust environment across all of these resources. The universal journey allows you to have select a set of projects or set of priorities and implement this on based on these priorities. And as you go on your journey, you can then address more and more of these use cases. The Beyond Trust solution, has mentioned, is spread across the privilege password management, endpoint privilege management, and security remote access, and it allows you to have the right tools in place for ensuring you have a zero trust across your zero trust journey. With that, I would like to thank you for your time today, and if you have any questions, I will be around to answer them. Thank you.
Hi, hello. Thank you everyone for tuning in this session by Beyond Trust. I'll see you soon in the next session. Thank you very much. Have a good day.